What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode here at the Still Higgins Fitness and More Show. All right, we are going to jump kind of right into it today. Last week we talked about, what did we talk about last week? No, we talked about the stress hormone, cortisol, right? And we talked about how cortisol, basically just breaks down your body, makes you feel like crap. It is a stress hormone. It's built up and things add on to it and all that good stuff. And then we develop symptoms or, in fact, other diseases from it because it does so much damage to our body. All right. So today we are going to kind of take another look, not so much at cortisol. Today we're going to talk about the feel-good chemicals, the feel-good ones, right? Those big three, your dopamine, serotonin, your norepinephrine, or most people say the endorphins, the endorphins. But today we are going to go, we're going to dive in a little bit and see what these things actually do, to us. We know, okay, yeah, they make us feel good, and some combination of the three has us feeling like amazing, right? So let's take a look, and these three kind of all go together. So let's pull up this, first diagram here. So at the top, you have serotonin and norepinephrine, and then at the bottom, the dopamine. So this diagram kind of shows how they all do some of the same things, but they do some things differently. Some of them are located in different parts of the brain and body, affecting the nervous system, the central nervous system, and all of that, like everything. So we're going to talk about it a little more. So we are going to start with the one at the bottom there that says dopamine, or the reward or motivation or motivating feel-good hormone or chemical, right? That is like the one that everything positive in your future is really driven off of, the balance of this dopamine, all right? So take a quick look at this video, and then we'll go into detail, all right?
For daily hacks of the human body, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Then tap the bell icon to be notified on our newest video. What dopamine does to the body. Ever heard of dopamine? There's a good chance of hearing people talk about this chemical. It's typically known as the feel-good neurotransmitter, primarily because of its link to pleasure and reward responses. It's the chemical that's behind our dreams and deepest secrets. So what is dopamine? Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that's synthesized in some regions of the brain from L-dopa. We produce this chemical when we consume foods that contain amino acids including tyronine and phenylalanine. It's important to note that some symptoms are likely to occur when a person's levels become too high or low. High dopamine levels can lead to schizophrenia and cocaine addiction, while low levels are associated with Parkinson's disease. But the big question is, what are the effects of dopamine? Join us as we explore just about everything you need to know. Dopamine boosts the anticipation of pleasure. First off, whenever we come across a rewarding stimulus, the brain releases more dopamine, and this pushes us to seek out the fun or pleasurable activity. Pleasurable experiences or moments like sex, games, eating tasty foods, and even drugs can stimulate the release of dopamine. It's, however, important to note that dopamine doesn't mediate pleasure. Instead, it enhances the expectation of pleasure in humans. The bottom line, you enjoy most of the pleasurable activities because of dopamine. Dopamine improves memory and learning. The effect of dopamine in the brain helps with memory and learning. Essentially, dopamine is crucial for long-term memory storage and retrieval. What's more, this neurotransmitter reminds you of important events, especially those that have motivational significance. It's also good to point out that dopamine plays a big role in working memory. That's the capacity to use information from short-term memory to guide your actions. Dopamine increases your drive. Also known as the motivation molecule, dopamine gives us the motivational as well as the internal drive to do things. As we know, we usually do things because we find them to be worth it or rewarding. What you should know is that dopamine is the chemical that's responsible for your reward-seeking behavior. Your drive is the result of high dopamine levels. On the flip side, people with low levels of this neurotransmitter are less likely to work for things and care less about the rewards that come afterward. Dopamine controls movement. It's also good to point out that dopamine plays an essential role in movement. How? Well, the basal ganglia, largest and most important sources of dopamine in the brain, is the biggest factor that comes into play here. It actually controls movement. For the most part, the basal ganglia require high levels of dopamine to function optimally. This is just how it works. If limited amounts of dopamine reach the basal ganglia, several different voluntary motions may become uncoordinated. This is especially common in Parkinson's disease. Dopamine increases wakefulness. As humans, we're more likely to stay awake when we have higher levels of dopamine in the brain. This is precisely why you're always active during the day. On the flip side, dopamine levels fall during the night, and melatonin takes over. As you probably guessed, this chemical makes you sleepy. Dopamine processes pain. Besides its role in increasing your urge for exciting experiences, dopamine is also released when you come across unfavorable or sad events, more like when you have an epic argument with your boyfriend or girlfriend. Finally, you should be aware that dopamine has a link to addiction. Excessive intake of drugs can decrease dopaminergic function and eventually increase addiction to drugs. If you liked the video, give it thumbs up and share it with your friends. For more interesting facts on the human body, subscribe.
Alrighty. So, yeah, as you can see, I think we've had several epiphanies while that video was playing. But yeah, dopamine is what we use, or what is used to make us feel good in the way of rewarding. But it has several, in case you guys didn't hear it there in other places here, social media sites, it is in the important key element there in memory and learning, long-term memory and retrieval of like stored things and things that we may not be conscious of, those type of things. The big role is in the working memory, which is the capacity to use information on a short-term memory to guide your decisions. That's a big one. So low levels of dopamine, that means, what that's saying is, if your levels of dopamine are low, you will not have the capacity to make good decisions and actions because you can't pull that information from your short-term memory. So this is, in your short-term memory, that helps us to kind of make those decisions on a daily, our actions on a daily, based on what we remember shorthand. So again, something else that you definitely want to be aware of, not even so much aware of, but you can try to get this tested. But if you're feeling certain things, and we'll go into some of the things that, are going to show in life if you have low dopamine. I mean, clearly that's just one I just gave you, right? So on the flip side, though, it's also, on the cool side still, it is the motivation molecule, right? So it's what tells us internally and externally, like, reward. We did something. We want a reward. But not only that, that's just kind of like result-driven. Like result-driven people that do things and they see action. Dopamine, great on them. It's on them. So the cool thing, like I said, about dopamine is, like he said in the video, these are things that come from the boosting of the anticipation of things like good tasting food, games, and sex, things that are pleasurable to us. It allows us to be excited about an event, or you're going to see someone and you're able to get excited, or something's coming, and it's that anticipation. Or like, have you ever given someone a gift and it's just like, and they knew they were getting some kind of prize and they just like, not really interested? Yeah, low levels of dopamine. And on the flip side of that, the people, like I said, with low levels, they are less likely to work hard for things, and they can care less about the rewards that come afterwards. So again, you see these kind of people all the time, unfortunately. But this is what we're going to do, right? So here it is. It's like, what are we going to do to fix that? What are we going to do, or what can we do in a natural way to kind of increase our dopamine in our bodies, right? So a lot of times, lack of sleep causes this. So we got to get up on our sleep, reducing stress, physical activity, removing those things from your life that cause you stress. And sometimes we don't know exactly what those are, right? Sometimes we don't know. But if you are feeling that, I think the next one is going to tell us more, okay, about that feeling and that gut feeling of things to help reduce stress. But yes, decreasing coffee and caffeine, decreasing your sugar intake also will help to boost that dopamine back up. And then to the increase of amino acids or tyrosine. Those are two things that will definitely help on a chemical level to help. Some people can take supplements for that. I don't preach supplements. I preach plant-based. So you can do whichever you feel. They have both options there. But the number one, exercise. Exercise will release those feel-good chemicals almost immediately. Like, well, you don't feel good going through it, but it will help balance them very quickly. All right. So that's dopamine. So the cool thing we do also kind of just thought about, I wonder if that's the root word for or how the word dope came about, right? Because on the flip side of that, like they said too, with dopamine, the thing that we have to worry about or be conscious of is that it can cause or lead into addiction or addictive personality traits and things of that nature on the high level. The super high level with then be schizophrenia, things like that. So remember, everything in moderation, things need to be level and balanced, right? Because on the downside, low side, along with everything else and all the other stressors, Parkinson's disease is known to come from it because of the imbalance and the movement that dopamine is responsible for. All right. So, all right, that's dopamine. So, in a sense, just make it dope. If you make everything you do dope, you're good because you're going to be rewarded and all that good stuff, and your dopamine is there. So, you're dope. All right? Anyway, moving right along. So, we're going to go ahead and take a look at serotonin. So, serotonin in the body. And this one is interesting to me because what I didn't realize that where it was located, okay? Because I'm thinking it's all in the brain. And this one kind of got me. It was a good little light bulb moment for me. So y'all take a look at this video on serotonin. It's real quick, like 2 minutes, and then we're going to talk about it, okay? Go ahead.
You hear a lot about serotonin in psychiatry. So just what is that stuff? Well, it's a molecule that looks something like this. It's discovered in 1935 in an extract from GI enterochromaffin cells and labeled enteramine. In 1948, a substance in the blood serum called serotonin increased vascular tone. And in 1952, these are shown to be the same thing. By 1953, it was found in the central nervous system. Its chemical name is 5-hydroxytryptamine. It's a monoamine neurotransmitter. It's synthesized from tryptophan, which is an amino acid common in diet, especially in Turkey, makes you sleepy after Thanksgiving. And from there, it's converted in 2 steps, 5-hydroxytryptophan to serotonin. It's metabolized by monoamine oxidase to 5-HIAA. 90% of it's in your gut. Regulates intestinal movement. It also has a role in nausea and vomiting. It's also stored in platelets to join the clotting factor. So why is there a neurotransmitter in the gut? Well, your 30-foot-long tube has its own nervous system, which has the same number of neurons as the spinal cord. Now, in the brain, the serotonin pathways start in the brainstem with the Rafe nuclei, where it is synthesized. First, it goes to the nucleus accumbens, the reward circuit, and then throughout the lobes of the brain. It's involved in mood, memory, sleep, and cognition. Key observations: it's increased in socially dominant animals and decreased in subordinates. It's also decreased in depression, anxiety, and OCD, and during the obsessive phase of falling in love. In the synapse, signal flow imagined from the left to the right. Down the axon comes serotonin into the synaptic cleft. It might hit a receptor, trigger some messages. It might get degraded by monoamine oxidase, or it might get taken back up by the serotonin transporter. So to modify serotonin, you can change the amount of serotonin synthesized or released into the synapse. You can change postsynaptic receptor affinity. You can change the activity of SERT or the activity of MAO.
All right. So again, I know some of y'all at home are like, So what the hell does that all mean, basically? Anyway, still, huh? So what I want you to know, serotonin, like I said, it's in the IG tract. 90% of serotonin, 90% is in your gut. This has got to be related. And I'm no scientist yet, right? But y'all know this doctoral program about to be on. So anyway, but dude, okay. You ever heard of someone saying go with your gut? Okay, or someone being stressed out. And I'll be personal. Well, let me give you all a little bit more information, right? So the central nervous system, and they're saying your gut, your intestinal walls has its own nervous system as well, right? So 90% of this of serotonin is in the in your intestines, right? So it's also stored in the platelets that kind of are released when you're cut, blood clots, and things like that. They kind of come out there to kind of help slow down the amount of blood that you're losing and things like that. And that's when, as those platelets come out, the serotonin then is kind of released, right? So that summed up that whole 2 minutes. I know it went a little sciencey for some, but some of you guys will like it as well. So, but 90%, like I said, I can't stress that enough. And it has to do with your movement in your gut, so it plays a big part of vomiting and nausea. You ever think of why? You ever been in like a stressful situation and you're like, oh my gosh, football players, things that high anxiety when you're about to do something and hold up, I got to throw up first. Yeah, that's that gut feeling, that gut doing something, and that serotonin doing its thing, right? So what does this look like in us besides just that outwardly example of vomiting and nausea, right? So people with low serotonin levels definitely suffer from anxiety and depression. Well, I'm not going to say definitely, but anxiety and depression are there highly in the low serotonin levels. Irritability, anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, and food cravings and appetite and emotional imbalances, right? Appetite, food cravings, anxiety, depression. What the key thing that all of those have or can cause is then overeating, right? And then you have an addictive personality, or you're now addicted to food because the body is looking for something to basically really rid itself of this nervous condition or the trauma that has happened, or anything like that. Remember, like last week with the cortisol, we talked about how to fix it was to rid our bodies of these things and not self-soothe or self-loathe in an unhealthy way by trying to fix the problem or cover up the problem or avoid the problem. We have to figure out how to self-soothe in a healthy way to be able to get that thing out of our nervous system, that trauma, that stress, or that anxiety, that situation that causes it. And it can definitely be situational with anxiety and depression and low levels of these drugs, right? So, and if you understand the kind of the depression, all of these kind of had the same things. Or some of them are very similar if their levels are low, right? And so then, yeah, all of this makes total sense. So what do we need to do then to correct this? We got to get our gut health on, right? If this is in 90% of this is in our stomach and our digestion, we have to then fix that first, okay? We have to start cleansing. We have to start plant-based. But it's most healthiest because then those other chemicals that you're eating aren't throwing off the dopamine and your serotonin levels and things like that. Let's try to work with, here's a thought. Let's work with the chemicals that are in us already and try to balance those before we keep adding more and more into us and throwing us off. All right? But the best thing for this one, starting with your digestive tract, cleaning it out, flushing, cleansing, plant-based diet, exercise. If you don't want to do plant-based, okay, fine. Eat your chicken. Make sure it's grass-fed, though, okay? But really starting to go outside. Get the vitamin D, get the natural fresh air, sunlight, all of that. I know we're about to enter into the winter very soon, but these are the things we got to think about on how to fix these issues or increase our serotonin, increase our dopamine to healthy levels so that we can be productive members of society. Because remember, all of these things too, yes, they're happening to us, but if you come in contact with someone with irritability, that have anxiety issues, that are negative, that are depressed and low self-esteem, eventually some of those are going to affect you in a way, right? So it's about us, but it's about being also productive members of society, right? So serotonin, new thing I learned. I didn't know it was so in the gut. I did not know 90%, but like I said, it made total sense. Definitely go with your gut, but your gut has to be healthy. So if your gut isn't healthy, then guess what? The rest of you will follow. So, right? Healthy minds, healthy guts, all right? The last one we're going to talk about here today is the third, which is the norepinephrine, right? And so this basically provides the accurate assessment of danger or stress. Okay, this is the one, it plays a big role in a person's mood, okay, and their ability to concentrate. Right? This one goes actually a step further, though. It actually does lead to what they say ADHD. If you believe in ADHD, some people don't believe that it exists. I'm kind of at I don't think it, I do feel that you should challenge your energy in yourself some way, but I do know chemicals are still affecting us, and they're probably just playing on words or what have you. But if you believe in ADHD, that's a whole nother show. But definitely low levels of this particular hormone can lead to ADHD, also depression, and hypotension. Hypotension, which is the low blood pressure, not the high one that we're always talking about, but hypotension can be just as dangerous. And I know we haven't spent much time talking about that, but there's always next season, right? All right, so this one too, this affects the area of the brain that helps you solve problems. All right, listen to this, right. Listen to this. This one, it helps you solve problems, plan ahead, and understand others' actions and control. So you ever meet somebody that like just doesn't get it? You know, just can't seem to understand anybody else's stuff, but they're constantly talking about theirs and their stuff, but not able to recognize their own or understand someone else's actions after they've interacted with them, right? So understanding others' actions and control. This is what this one is big, because this one is the one that can cause probably the most harm if someone in your life has these low levels, okay? Remember, this plays a big part in the body's response to stress, okay? This tells the brain, okay, pay attention to this event, or, be responsive in this, or, plays that role in the ability to concentrate and ability to kind of think about anyone else in a way, all right? Anyone else other than themselves in such a way, right? So these themes, we got those three back up there on the screen, yeah. So as you can see how they overlap in certain areas, like the dopamine and the serotonin, appetite, aggression, sex, things like that. On that side, your mood, the cognitive functions of all three have the cognitive functions, anxiety, impulse, irritability. So these things are what you need to watch out for. There are places that will test you for certain levels, or for your levels of this. If you're interested in going to have that done, reach out to your physician. They will definitely lead you in the right way of where to get that. They'll refer you out. You probably want to go to more of a mental health specialist to kind of get that done. All right. So these are the things or the hormones that, like I said, will help drive your life into a positive everything, right? If you are able to kind of do some self-check and look at yourself and say, okay, am I irritable all the time? Am I craving this and eating that and doing all these things? Am I getting enough sleep? Am I drinking too much coffee? Am I not getting enough exercise? All of that, start there first. Now, I've given you guys what these drugs are, or what these hormones are, rather, how they can increase, if increase, how they can make your life awesome. And then if they're decreased or the lower levels, what these things can do or does to your body. But more importantly, I want you guys to take a look at just maybe how they're affecting your life in whole. I mean, really, sometimes, I will definitely say, for me, my stressor, when I'm stressed, that serotonin is all up in me, man. Because when it's too stressful, I don't like to eat. When I'm too stressful, if it's a immediate situation, I've definitely had times where I've thrown up and not known why, like out of the blue, like didn't eat anything bad or anything, just like, it's stress. It might have been an argument or, a traumatic scene going down, and I'm like, okay, like I'm cool in the moment and I'm there, but then afterwards I'm gonna throw up somewhere just cause you know what I mean. But this is a self-awareness, a self-check that you have to do to yourself if you want to be a productive member of society or just a good person, period. If you want to be a healthy person, these are the things that we need to look out outside of, I want to have this amount of money in this house, and I want this, and I want all these material crap. Don't none of that make no sense whatsoever. Because if you're not a happy person, it won't last. It can be taken away in a minute. Okay? Because remember, these things affect what? Your ability to concentrate, a person's mood, someone's ability to understand others and actions that they do in their own control. This affects their ability to solve problems, to plan ahead. These low levels can cause all of these things. Depression, anxiety, all of that is there. All of it. Concentration, energy, everything. So we're taking a look at these three chemicals, hormones. So imagine if you were not having obsessive compulsions and your memory is good, you're able to make conscious decisions, you're planning ahead, you can understand other people's feelings and thoughts and actions, and you can understand your own, and you've got good exercise, you're eating right. All these are positive things. These are the things that propel you into the future. You're motivated. And whatever it is that you're doing, right? You're being rewarded. The universe is going to reward you right back, even if it's just for self to say, yes, I did this, whatever it was. I completed something that I set out to do 8 years ago, but now I did it, and it only took a little bit of time, something. But all of these things together, these three on a healthy level cannot do anything else but set you up for a healthy, productive, awesome life. And that's what I want for all of you guys, everybody. But if these levels are low, it might be holding you back from your future. So really pay attention, do that self-check, see if your levels are right. Might not be, something that you can control at the time because of these levels are low. But if we're doing some of these things, taking away the sugar, decreasing the caffeine, getting to sleep on time, eating a well-balanced, nutritionally dense meals. These are the things that are going to change that around for you, okay? So then maybe you're able to think a little clearer, make the best decisions for you guys, and have an awesome life, all right? That's all I want for you guys, all right? Next week is going to be awesome. It is October, and we are into our breast cancer awareness month. I got some awesome ladies coming on to share their stories. You do not want to miss next week. I am so excited. Also, Vegans Eat, October 19th. The chef will be here on the 18th. The 19th, it goes down. Tickets are on sale at Eventbrite. Buffet style vegan food. I got 2 comedians I just signed to come on to and do a skit as well. We got DJ, prizes, giveaways, and did I mention buffet style food like lasagna? We got vegan lasagna, vegan mac and cheese. We got bratwurst. We got Beyond Burgers. Man, we got so much stuff I can't even tell y'all. Like, y'all just gotta come. listen here. See y'all next week. Check out the flyer. They're on all my handles. Or just go to Eventbrite. Vegans Eat. We'll be there on the 19th for sure. I hope to see y'all next weekend. Please.
I hear them calling for me. Mind open, eyes closed. My journey, my road.